Okay, Bruce, I think anytime.
Okay. I started to, but Lisa was having a problem. So we're all set?
Al, can you hear us okay?
Al, did you hear that?
I can hear you guys fine. Yep.
Excellent,
so
thank you.
much.
Thank you.
No soccer yet?
No, let's get going.
Let's go. All right, call it to order and, say 7:04, I see. All right, in attendance, we have everybody that is appointed on the commission in attendance at this moment in time. So that's okay. And audience of citizens, we do not have any, I don't see any on Zoom, so we'll dispense with that. Approval of minutes.
Can you speak up, please?
Speak up, please.
Thank you.
Turn up the volume on your speaker
Approve the
or
minute.
microphone.
Made a motion.
Motion by Liam for approval of minutes. Second?
Second.
Second, all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Nick. Okay, thanks, Nick. And that's done. New business.
Okay, new business. Basically, there is a new date now, and Al, I'm not positive about this. Liam's going to check into this. Metabassett, the meeting is with the districts, the two districts, Kensington and ourselves, and Worthington. Same time, the date's been set for September 12th at 1 to 4 p.m. at the Metabassett Administrative Building. I know Art's been interested in trying to eliminate or lessen the number of individuals, but so I'm not sure if the members of the commission here can attend or not, but Liam's going to figure that out for us.
I strongly recommend being there.
Yeah.
But it's at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock to
And
4
so people
o'clock.
who have day jobs could not hear.
Well,
Would they have to
however
make
we
it?
set it up, but it's
Just don't expect Al to work.
well, it's entirely
Well,
different.
I don't intend to have anybody lose time at work for that anyway.
I might get
Anyway,
approval.
excuse me?
I might be able to get approval through.
Well, it's up to you. But the discussion is going to be centering around,
Subsidize it.
the
They're
discussion,
not gonna subsidize it.
this discussion's going to circulate around the issue of
Here's- okay, read
what
that over real quick.
inflow and infiltration has been done by all parties, including Berlin Water Control, Worthington, Kensington. Obviously, with a emphasis on the two districts to see what they've done and what they can produce and provide to us. So that's the full intent of that. And then additionally, what we're looking for is to have attendance by several, if not numerous, DEP and EPA memberships. I'm not sure how realistic that is, but hopefully there'll be a few, at least people from DEP. There's a lady over on Upson Street that constantly gives me pictures. I didn't even know it was her until later on, sends me text messages with the flooding in her yard. Upson Street, of course, is in the Kensington area. That's been a big problem right along. So hopefully this will be a productive meeting, and if nothing else, we'll get an idea prospectively of what the other districts have done or not done. The other thing is Art, in one of his correspondences, mentioned the fact that he is still interested, and I would still like to have my staff attend a tour of this facility. I've attended several times over the years. I always like to. I always learn a lot, and it's useful to see it per se directly how a facility of this size operates. Art says that he's probably the 5th largest facility in the state, so you're getting to see a fairly sophisticated utility, fairly sophisticated plant. So it would be a good idea. I would hope that you guys would be interested, and we could probably work on a date. We'd like to give you a date. What goes on? 4.2. Baxter Avenue meter. I was happy to see the other day both Mike Mendoza and Kyle Uritzoli, both who always work for us, picked up the Baxter Avenue meter information. I was afraid that we wouldn't be getting it. They had indicated to me they downloaded the information. It looks very useful. To date, 433 million gallons have passed through that meter, according to the information we had. Last flow, just for your information, Al, the other day, last Sunday, the flow through that meter was 3.545 MGD. That was a huge number.
Yeah.
Obviously, their average day demand is around 600, maybe 700,000. So I'm sure they didn't reach that number. So to date, if you subtract out this includes December. If we subtracted out this, December's information, we'd be talking about something in the vicinity of almost 300 million, which is interesting to me because when we go back to do the calculations for the Mattabasset, I've only been using 190 million. That's the actual water that they've been purchasing from New Britain and sold. So that hopefully, if we can use that information, that'll show that they can pay for that I&I additionally. So the Baxter Avenue data is it does exist. So hopefully we'll get it at the end of the year and we'll use that information next year. 4.3 townwide study status. Jim Erickson from Haley Ward came in the other day, picked up, and we had a whole box of information that we had collected and Xerox and copied for him to bring in. Of course, we're also going to provide him with some electronic information that came in from both Kensington and Worthington. A lot of pieces are missing, but hopefully there's enough information. As you recall, we did get approval from the town council to spend $140,000. The actual contract is $128,000. So we do have a little bit of freeboard there. I don't anticipate to use it, but we do have it if necessary. And the Board of Finance actually approved that as well. Board of Finance gave me a relatively difficult time. They spent about 40 minutes going over that whole issue about funding. It was unanimous at the end. Denise McNair, who was works at Kensington, did recluse herself and did not participate in that, obviously, and that was a good choice on her part. But it was unanimous that it was approved. So currently, they're going to begin. Time frame, which was another issue, looks to me like the actual report may be sometime by the end of the year. So we'll see how that goes.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, anytime.
The Kensington District and the Worthington Bridge District, now that this study is going on, is there any word as to, are they happy about it?
Well, I guess
I didn't know how to phrase that.
Well, to summarize that is that they're not willing to participate, not giving us any information, and not willing to pay. So I guess you could draw the issue that it's not a happy situation for them.
Well, they don't have to pay for anything.
They're not paying for it, but they're not also participating in it. We have to get the information through an FOI in order to get some of that information. And I don't know that we've collectively got as much as we could have or should have.
Isn't there any legal
Well,
kind of thing that
the
we
legal
can make them?
Well, the legal recourse is this, and then the attorney, the town council attorney, made a decision on this, and there's a point where you know, like a lot of things, like even in treatment, you get to 90-95%, and to get that extra 5% or 10% takes a lot of time and effort. So he had a familiarity. If we didn't get what we want through the FOI, we would have to go to FOI commission. And he says he didn't feel too comfortable doing that because it would probably take another year. So there you go. His experience has been that he submitted FOI information, they've lost it, and they've created a year delay on an issue that he was dealing with. So with that experience in mind, he decided that, we have enough information to go forward to this point.
But keep in mind, they also gave the attorney to comply with the FOI's originals. He would not leave with those. He made copies right there.
Yeah.
So they're making it hard.
The process started too. He actually issued the FOI in November of last year when he spoke to us, November 10th or 17th, something in that time frame. We didn't start getting information until March, May of this year. So that tells you that they
Oh,
were,
this is the town
they've-
attorney you're talking about.
the town attorney
Well,
He seemed to
handled
make,
all the FOI. I didn't want to do it, neither did any of our staff want to do it directly. So he handled it completely.
he seemed to make it pretty clear in the town meeting that it was like it's the legislature's fault.
Well, it is, and you're correct. His in that analysis, because what happens is it's legislature's fault because they created both entities.
Right.
So what he's saying is, in a sense, that if the legislature created them, then the legislature can take them away, and that's, I suppose, that's a possibility. And banking on that fact in the future is if these reports come back the way we think it might. Then it might be useful information for that potential.
So how do we go
And-
forward from then on? Do you get a hold of someone
Let's do
like
that in
I-
executive session.
I think we'll probably be calling the attorney back
Okay.
in December or January, or whatever, and asking him about that specifically. After we get the report
Yeah,
and after we analyze the report and see what it says. I look at this report too. I mean, it's not just a sort of vindictive in terms of trying to get information on the two districts. In theory, if it's done well, I mean, we do have issues that we need to address as well. So, I mean, that should still continue to come up, and that we still have to look at our priorities. I'm pretty well set the way I think our priorities should be, but another set of eyes is always going to look at it differently too. So maybe there's some suggestions for improvement on our part as well. So I don't deny that is a possibility as well. And then Reftilis, of course, is the entity that's going to do the financial analysis, and Haley Ward's doing the actual technical engineering infrastructure
And
analysis.
Jim Erickson's with Haley Ward.
He's with Haley Ward, yeah. And Haley Ward now, Jim Erickson, of course, has done a lot of water projects. He's not that familiar with sewer issues, but Haley Ward, whose main office is up in Maine, has done extensive areas activities in the sewer systems for Massachusetts quite a bit. So I think pretty confident that that would be helpful. Meriden, this is another project 4.4. Haley Ward is involved with this one also. They are doing the design. I actually got a preliminary design on my desk. He just handed it to me the other day. He was on his way to on another meeting, and he dropped off the review. This will be the design from Worthington Point Road, where our 12-inch line ends, and our 8-inch line goes all the way to the Canoe Birch Apartments, just shy of the Meriden line. So we're going to put a parallel line, a 12-inch line, directly from there to Meriden for a connection there. And hopefully, once that connection is made, I'm hoping that construction will actually take place next year. And then with that connection being made the following year, we can actually take the tank out of service and then basically repair some of the corrosion that's occurring within the tank itself. Our lamentation tank has never been taken out of service for any kind of work other than the repainting of the exterior surface, but
Is
nothing
there any
interior.
work actually being planned, contracted, or anything like that?
For what?
For that stretch for Worthington Point, since how I live there. And they painted the road,
What do you
like
say?
call before you dig.
It's too soon. We only have the
Well,
design
I'm
yet.
just wondering.
I don't have
why
any
they-
money for construction yet.
I understand that, but they painted the road for call before you dig already.
It doesn't make any difference. They
Something
color
else.
for everything.
It's gotta be something else. Okay.
Well, we're not gonna do construction until next year, so this
Yeah.
is way too soon for
I'm
anything.
just wondering if it
That
just
paint's
happened.
gonna rub off by
I
that
was
time.
just
so-
wondering if it coincided with this project.
No, not at all.
Is that a 30% set that you received, or 60? What percent complete are we at?
For the design?
Yeah.
I don't know. He didn't give me a percentage, to be honest with you, and I haven't had a chance to look at it so far. One thing I was surprised at, and I was happy to see, if anybody remembers going down to the Berlin Turnpike and taking a turn off the North Colony Road, there's like a little spur, a piece of property there. And I know part of it was DOT's, a piece that we're not going to take from DOT, but the adjoining piece is actually a town piece. And that would be a perfect location for a meter pit. It just happens to be, it's vacant, and it's also right in line with our connection to the main for Meriden, so.
That might be Carabetta.
I don't think that Carabetta has anything to do with it, but anyway. Anyway, so that's actively being pursued at this point in time, so that looks good. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the 4.5 is the UCMR 5 data. EPA does this on a regular basis. I forget the frequency. I think it's every 3 years, possibly. It's the unregulated contaminated monitoring reporting requirements. These are ones that were not in technically before standards. And so what they're doing is they do a survey for under 10,000 population. For those entities, they actually do it and pay for the analysis. Those over 10,000, they have to do it, but they actually pay for the analysis. So we fall under 10,000 population, obviously. So that we had samples collected. We had samples collected at the well field from Elton Road. Those were done previously back in February. Those came out okay. Most recently, the sample was collected in May 28th, and that was for the Cromwell connection and the New Britain connection. I'm happy to report that both sets of data were satisfactory. All of PFAS, there's 29 PFAS elements that was evaluated, and lithium. Lithium's sort of an oddball. I'm not really sure what was the intent for doing lithium, but lithium was well below the detection level too. So neither sources of supply had problems.
How many PFAS?
29 different. There's more than 29, but these are 29.
Did they
most
test?
common. Yeah.
What was the concentration? It was non-detect?
Non-detect, yes. Yeah. Well, and don't forget that these are parts per trillion. So these are low numbers.
Very low.
So that was good, and I copied Cromwell, and I also copied New Britain just to let them know that the results have been satisfactory. 4.6, Elton Road well. Now SB Church, which is now part of Weston and Sampson, has actually bought up 2 or 3 well drilling companies. SB Church is one of the most popular ones in Connecticut, well known, and basically re-drilled and drilled our wells over at Elton Road. They do every year. We like to have them come in and do a sort of a maintenance. This year, their report was a little bit disappointing to me, because the thing is that our well 2A is the one that's unblemished. It doesn't have any contaminant in it. Well 1B has a very low concentration of PCE per tetrachloroethylene, 1.2, which is well below the 5 standard. And when blended together with 2A, I always get non-detect. So that's the way I've been doing it. It's a 2 to 3 ratio. And so the funny thing about it is they're advocating that well 2A needs to be researched, and this happens every 6 or 7 years. As I don't ever remember doing it, but well 1B was a new one. We've had 1A previously researched. So 2A would have to come out of service for 3 days. We probably want to do this in January and December, the lowest consumption periods. So what bothers me is the second part of that is that the centrifugal pump, they think it may need to be replaced because of corrosion issues. So we'll see. That's hard to tell until they actually pull the pump and take a look at it. And that could be much longer in order for that well to be out of service. So we'll have to see how that comes
That's
out.
2 different pumps though. If you got a centrifugal system there, you got it up on top. You don't have a centrifugal down on the ground. That's just a set of bowls.
Yeah, it's a centrifugal pump though.
Is that what you're calling a centrifugal pump?
Yeah, well,
The
they're
bowls?
gonna have to pull the whole thing.
Well, yeah, there's a set of bowls down.
Yeah, right.
When you say centrifugal,
Well, that's what I'm talking about, is a centrifugal pump that has the bowls. not the submersible pump, which is on 1B.
Okay.
So this is like an
Okay.
extended shaft?
Well, it's a
centrifugal?
extended shaft with bowls. That would be considered bowls. But when you say centrifugal pumps, that's usually on the surface that the water goes in to boost the pressure.
It sits on the side, it sits on a pad over the well.
Right.
That's the only way I'm determining it, telling you.
Which one is the one that's gonna be searched?
The 2A, the centrifugal pump one. That's also the biggest well. So that makes me a little nervous because it's the better well. I would not want to pump well 1B for a period of time because I'd be afraid that it may change the direction of contamination there, because right now it's been operating very well. So I kind of hate to see that disrupted.
Well, these surges are going to change the profile of that.
Well, we'll see how it happens, but looking for short term. Item 4.7, lead and copper inventory. We had an intern start this. Only did a little bit. We weren't not as not as much as we thought we would do. But I have to give credit here to Lisa, and it's spelled Lecia, our secretary here, and Len Zielinski, who really did a spectacular job in my mind's eye. We're able to get together the list. We're at a point where actually we can submit the list on time, be compliant. Now, what this means is what? In 1967, all our connections, because of the way the regulations were structured, because we were created in 67, all our correct connections were made after that point were all copper. So they had no lead. So what we did is we worked with the assessor's office to get a list of houses and in our area, hopefully from our customer area, basically identifying those prior to 67 which have a potential. So what Lisa and Len were able to do is to go back in there and fill out it's a long Excel spreadsheet. It's about 3 feet long, basically with a lot of information on there and what to identify, and then put in for those systems unknown, for those homes unknowns. Now we have 458, something like that, of homes that we now have a population where we know that these are the unknowns, and then we can target these to figure out how to get more information. So we're talking with Dave over on our IT guy, and he says that we might be able to set up a separate web page and then send out notices to these people and have them report back and take pictures of it or give us information to try to cut that number down, so that eventually we'll be able to get the number of unknowns to hopefully zero. But this has helped out tremendous because, as we know, we have almost 2,900 customers, and they were able to clear off the bulk of that. So that to me was a big plus. And it's because of Lenny and Lisa that happened. So we were both thrilled to have this happen and know about it too. So to give her a lot of credit. So make sure that credit gets in there. So
you spell her name right?
Yeah. Well, I spelled it out for her.
Paranessa, right?
So anyway, so hopefully we will be able to comply with that requirement. We have to report back by October 16th. I think we can probably do that by early September. So that works out. New interim manager, I just met him the other day, Lee Palmer, a very nice gentleman with a great deal of varied experience. He's worked in a lot of different towns, several as a town manager, but in many of the towns he's worked as a human resources person, has background. Also worked at the state. He and I know quite a few people over at the state, various agencies that we worked with. So it was kind of nice to go back over some of this history that we've had.
I don't know if it's good.
I was thinking the same thing.
Well, regardless,
State employees.
know some of the same individuals.
You said he is the interim.
Yeah, he's
Are
in the
they
interim.
going through any kind of a search
I
for
have-
full-time?
I presume so, but I have no idea what the time frame is because I asked him about that. He doesn't know.
Now, is he from town here?
Oh no, he's from Middlebury, I believe it is. Yeah. So-
Now, do you still have to be a resident of town to be the town manager?
Yes. That's a
Yeah.
requirement. Actually, Arosha had an apartment over here on off of
That's
Newbury
gotta
Road.
be the dumbest rule that
I
anybody.
agree with you. And I think it's strange.
They
Now
thought
today,
about it, they thought about
I
it,
mean,
charter
you
change,
work
thought about it,
in
and decided not to.
New Haven, but
But
you
yeah, the
live in
chief,
Berlin.
chief of police or fire.
In the old
chief
days, they
don't have
probably
to be
wouldn't allow
members
you
of
to
town.
do it, so.
Maybe, yeah. Town manager's a little bit more involved.
Well, yeah.
I don't know, I'm not deciding.
I think all of the utilities are a little bit more responsive. They're allowing some people to go further because they're just looking for talent. Sometimes they can't find it within 25 miles or 20 miles or within the same town. So you have to get what
And
you
how
get.
long they last,
I'm sorry?
how long they last.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's an unknown, so. Anyway.
When did he
I
start?
would like to add another item to the agenda.
Okay, when did he start?
When did who start?
About a month
Lee
ago.
Palmer.
No, he started in August. They had a special meeting sometime the first week of August, I think it was.
You want to add something?
Yeah, I want to add 4.9 AWWA training.
Who's gonna-
AWWA training,
Who's gonna
pipeline
make the
condition
motion to add
assessment.
it? Who's making the motion to add it?
I make a motion, we add them.
Is there
Okay.
a second,
Second.
Liam, all in favor, aye?
All right,
Aye. Nay? All right, and
So,
4.9 AWA.
I had the
training.
benefit last week of attending, well, first one I can recall with the town, actually, AWWA conference in Boston. And the reason for it was pipeline condition assessment. And for that, this is the important part. I realized that somewhere down the line, in East Berlin, we're going to have issues because one of the things our intern did do, which I was happy to see him do, but hadn't completed it, was the inventory of all our water lines by street and by size and by type. And it comes out that we have primarily all ductile iron. There are a few places with cast iron. Cast iron somewhat is a culprit for obviously tuberculation. And that was one of the, we did a round of discussions and problem solving. And cast iron is one of those systems where you have to take it, clean it out, and reline it. And then you can probably get another 50 years out of it. So where are our problems? Primarily in East Berlin. I looked at most of the streets and I actually looked at them this morning and to evaluate some. And it's not as bad as I originally thought. And I don't have a total number. I obviously wouldn't have a price either because I would think that every cast iron pipe we've had so far that we've looked at has had significant tuberculation. Berlin Street, for instance, is one location. Grove Street, all in East Berlin. Let's see.
What would it cost to get
Magnolia,
it? What would it
Main
cost
Street.
us to get a rough idea on this? Because this is going to be in the pipeline next year.
Yeah, no, it's going to be several years out. There's no way we can financially. By the time I do the tank, somewhere I'll start putting this together. But I can give some numbers initially. What we did do is we have a certain kind of a funny situation too. When they put a ductile iron line from Beckley Road underneath Route 9, it comes out on Carmer Street. And when it comes out to Carmer Street, it comes over to Main Street. It goes from there all the way to the end of Main Street in East Berlin. However, when they put the line in, they left the 8-inch cast iron main with all the service connections. They didn't put the service connections on the 12-inch ductile iron. They put it on the cast iron, which means that's the crappy pipe. And so we recently had a leak, and it turned out not to be a main break. Actually, the connection going into the main on the cast iron pipe blew up.
The 8 or the 12?
The 8.
Okay.
So they patched up the 8, they wrapped it up, and I was pretty thrilled because our earth contractors did it, and then connected it to the 12-inch instead of the 8-inch, which made sense because that's the way we should be. Because when I'm thinking about when we actually do get the work in that one, I would take the 8-inch, abandon it completely, and then just make new connections there.
Connections all to the
I think
12.
that would be cheaper, and I was talking to the guy, and he seems to think that would be cheaper in the long run, rather than trying to reline the 8-inch and then make all the connections anyway.
Just reconnect it all to the 12.
So, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That'd make it hell of a lot more
Did you
sense.
think of that by yourself, or did you need help?
I had to
That's the
finally
last ski
think of
trip.
something.
Anyway, so that was it.
So if it
But,
breaks next week, it's what you're gonna do, right?
next week? No, it's 3 years from now. But it was interesting because I bought these manuals before. The manual that they were using is this one. This was a very excellent manual. This was actually written by the instructor, Dan Ellison, who works for HDR. He put this together. And this manual, which is funny because I didn't know, my best friend helped write this from Hike Camp, Lenny Assard, who's just recently retired. He used to work in Waterbury. And they put together this one, the rehabilitation of water mains. But the culprit bottom line on Lee's, and of course, it was attended by 14 states, which is interesting, in 2 countries. Canada had two different organizations from Canada, Ontario, and then one from Germany, which was interesting. The gentleman from Germany was interesting because he had, I think he was a vendor. We're going to get some names and information from each of them. But a few vendors were there. And what was interesting to me is that they had, the technology now is that you can evaluate a lot of these, but a lot of these can be evaluated, but they have to do a lot of work to get them. And for instance, on the pressure pipe, steel pressure pipe, I talked to him about, but I didn't give him the name of Waterbury, about the Waterbury thing. And then the guy behind me was from the Pressure Pipe Institute, came over and talked to me afterwards. He says, well, you know, all pressure pipe doesn't burst. I said, well, that's true, but you can't take pressure pipe. We couldn't take it out of service. Most of the pipe that they need to have can be taken out of service. And there's a mechanism in there where they can see where there's a number of wires. You know, pressure pipe has wires in it. And if there's like more than 5 wires that are broken, then you have to replace and repair the main. More than that. And if you see these spun wound things, they're only very small. So most of the big pipes are pressure pipes now, but they can be relined as well too. So, but it was interesting to hear everybody had their own issues, because out southwest and over in the west section of the country, they use PVC pipe. We don't use it here because we found, and I don't know if you found it out in any of your pipe that you use, if the bedding's not properly made, you can get perforations into the pipe and leaks into the pipe. And for pressure pipes, it's problematic. For gravity pipes, you may not see as much leakage, but for pressure pipe, you definitely going to see leakage. So I think the bottom line on it was pretty worthwhile. It was interesting to hear. And I was in a work group with a gentleman from New York, and he had the same problem we had. But after we had the meeting and the instructor told us that we did the right thing, he didn't show up for the next day. So I think he was happy with what he had already. So it worked out for him as well. So.
Did you hear, was there much interest or any people that had the concrete?
Actually, concrete is not a high, high producer now. A lot of it is what's already in place, so they don't sell as much. But I guess the ductile iron and I was surprised, ductile iron in the north is very common. Out in the west, it doesn't seem to be common. Three guys from Arizona, all their pipeline is PVC.
That's because they know how to put in pipes.
Yeah, and then
C900.
I guess. And then the interesting part about it is that HDPE. This guy was actually pushing HDPE pipe, which was a surprise to me too. But leaching has always been a question about any pipe that's plastic, particularly in water industry. And the plastic pipe for Blue Brood, I remember it was primarily in the mid '60s came around. It's still relatively new in some regards. I mean, cast iron was the way to go for many, many years, but again, because of the tuberculation, it just doesn't live. But this instructor was saying it's probably the best pipe to reline though, because it basically, as long as there's a little bit of material left, you can pig it out, clean it out, and put cement lining in there. You can probably get another 50 years out of there.
Depending on the cast iron date, because they made spun cast iron, and that was a real problem in the 70s.
Yeah, he didn't mention any of that. I don't
Yeah,
recall
it's a
that.
thin, it's a real problem.
Yeah.
There was a whole 15 years
Or
there.
time.
But, well, the bottom line on this is that I don't think we have as much cast iron as I thought we had, because I'm looking at some of the streets in East Berlin, and I didn't realize that some of these were put in the late 70s and early 80s. For instance, the Mattabassa Street, for a couple of other streets that I thought were,
So it doesn't go back that far anyhow.
no. And what was helpful too is the assessor's office, because the assessor's office gave us dates of. Trouble is, some of these things date back to 1700, 1720,
So some of
1790.
the 1970s,
So
which are
I don't-
okay, some of the 70s.
I don't know what's inside, never mind what's on the outside. I mean, I gotta believe
That
when they-
plumbing's been
when the
changed.
plumbing went in, it must be either lead or,
Lead.
something, or
Might-
galvanized
Lead or
maybe.
lead?
Galvanized won't last that long.
I don't know. I mean, frankly, because you think about it, I don't believe copper piping was around that early. So
I don't think so either.
Do we have a set budget for every year? For
No.
So many feet of lining?
that was that was one of the comments. First day was how do you set the budget? A lot of utilities, a lot of larger utilities, for instance, Meriden, has a budget of like $1.5 million every year to do relining. We don't have any.
We will have.
We can't afford it right now because we have a pending facility, the Deming Road Pump Station, which we fully, we didn't go through what do you call it, with the DEP for funding. So we're funding it, and then MDC is reimbursing us. So they reimbursed us almost $1 million out of a $3 million project, but we're carrying the rest. Our connection to Meriden will be hopefully a loan. So it'll be another surcharge on there. So we put on surcharges knowing that when the surcharge is done, we can take it off books.
So who's gonna take Tom's place? You're talking about another bill.
That's why we're trying to get Sylvie back on.
Well, Tom's place.
Good financial.
I mean,
Is our former, anytime you mention.
Tom could have been convinced that, another surcharge is a better idea rather than expending a lot of extra money. But to get to your point, Nick, is the fact is that, yeah, we when we look at this, I'm gonna probably have to look at it as a major project. I think it's a one-time job personally, because with the ductile iron, I don't know that we're gonna have to do it again in any of those other locations. We pulled out a piece of ductile iron that I don't know if I showed you once before, but when we went in 1967, it still looks good. The C value is still pretty good. So I think I'd be less worried about that and not set aside a dollar amount.
So it's still.
We'll find out after the study.
Yeah, but going back to, again, to your comment as well, I am considering another rate increase though for January. I think we're going to have to look at another modest one, something in the 4 to 6%.
And and what do you got penciled for East Berlin to reline? What is this, because we're gonna need to get ahead of steam to head on that.
After the tank is done, yeah, I don't know what to anticipate with that.
We gotta do Meriden before the tank.
Yep, that's my priority because it's a broader problem. It's not just an East Berlin thing.
So the schedule is Meriden first, tank second, East Berlin third.
Third,
All right. Anything else under that?
No, other than that, I thought that was a pretty good program, and I was, it was useful. I think it was helpful from that perspective too. It was also helpful to hear a lot of other state, and this is part of the things what you get when you do a lot of these seminars. You get to listen
get
to
to
a lot of
hear a
other
lot of
people's their problems and their issues, and you
pick a lot
find
of
out.
people's brains.
And you find out that it's not that much different than the stuff that you're dealing with. And actually, this guy was pretty good because HDR did a lot of projects in LA, and he was showing a lot of problem areas that they've had over the years. And some of them are completely stupid. I mean, they were really ridiculous. Some connections that were stranger, they couldn't understand them. And so, you got to see some stuff that was. I always thought it was just these Berlin problems, but it happens everywhere. Anyway,
Doing a lot of small things.
So the last item is the old business, and that's the Deming Road. We're about 95% done. One of the gentlemen, Frank Mastriano, was pretty good. He had left. And then we're at a point now where we're testing out actually today they gave a training session to the staff for the generator to be tested on and to be utilized. We'll probably have that on a regular basis being run every week like we do with the Berlin pump station. And then the actual pumps are functioning too. And then, but we still have the temporary bypass ready. There's a few minor things that still have to be done there, but I think actually by the end of September, we'll be pretty much set that pumping station. That by the 15th, MDC will pay us another $230,000 in 5 years period. That pump station, the 3.2 million, will be paid off for. The next project I'm looking at, unless there's an I&I project somewhere, would be to evaluate the Berlin pump station. That one that's got some problems with it. That's our major station. So
Yeah.
Has a punch list been provided to Nickerson related to Deming Road pump station?
no, not yet. No. That's going to be due through our consultants.
The relining, I know you discussed it earlier, we talked to you about the 16th line where Metabas is going to be doing it. Where's the location is that going to occur?
Right around between the meters up through there and where we pump into the 60-inch.
So it's going to be
For the
around
Berlin
that area,
pump station.
at a Berlin pump station.
That's why I want the plans.
Yeah. I know it's a long line and it just was given.
Yeah, in that last storm, actually, that station was flooded. It didn't flood outside the area, but it did flood the pit completely. So it was, that's problematic. And last time that they did a calibration, WG Malden, who does the calibration, I don't know who does yours, but calibrations weren't able to be done there because all three pumps were pumping and they couldn't be able to get a reading. So they'll be doing another reading in October, I think it is.
Fun.
And we, by the way, just as an
Great.
aside, we recalibrated the Baxter Avenue. It's right on the money as well too, so it's still good.
So that's doing really good.
So far,
Good. Anything else?
nothing. I put on here the executive session, but it's not necessary unless you want to talk
Yes.
about something.
Yes.
Can I bring up, I
Sure.
wanted to bring up
Yes.
something.
In
Oh, okay.
executive session or in
Yes.
regular?
No, executive session.
Okay.
All right, then let's entertain.
Make a motion to go into.
Al, we're going to go in executive session
Session.
for a few minutes.
Jim,
Okay.
Oh,
Yep.
Jim.
Jim
Oh, you
also.
don't have to record if they're only on.
right, I just need to continue.
Okay.
Motion by Lee, second.
Second.
Second by Nick.
Oh, so you'll hear it, but it won't be
Right.
recorded. That's the only difference. Jim
I
and
just need to,
Al.
That's fine.
September, we're going to have September, we'll have a
Okay.
meeting.
I-
Can I
motion
back
to
into
adjourn.
session?
Yeah, September, we're having a meeting, but I'm going to be away in October, so let's more likely that we can either cancel it out or schedule another date. But I'll hold off on it
Let's see how it
till we'll
goes.
see what we have, yeah. And he's going for
Surgery on his knee.
surgery in November, so we'll play it by ear, see what
Well,
happens.
it's one person at a time, is usually not a problem, except for you. You're the one
I
that
don't
runs it,
count.
so.
Yeah.
Well, it would be nice
All
to
right,
have a
so we'll
full.
keep that in mind and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So move Nick, second.
Al?
I'll second it.
Al, second.
Finish it off, Al, that's
All in
good.
favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank
Contrary
you.
minds,
Thank
nay?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Have
Thank
a
you, take
great
care.
day.
You too. Bye.
When are you gonna?
No